Hi, my name is Kara Adams, and thank you for joining my Love Workshop. This workshop is a 3-lesson workshop. So we're going to be talking about living a life you love. We're going to be talking about transformational self-love. And we're also going to be talking about relational and experiential love. And I'm going to let you know kind of how it all fits in together. So a little bit about me. I am a wife. I've been married for 12 years to my husband. Not all of them happy, but all of them worthwhile. We have an 8-year-old son together. And I'm also a breast cancer survivor. And I would say all of those sums make up the whole of me. Now, I was in the corporate world for 20 years. I am a marketing expert. I am very good. I am the best at taking what could be and turning it into what's possible and what is when it comes to an organization's ability to communicate with their customer and with the community. It's something that I have built my career on. I have worked with multi-billion-dollar companies. Most recently, I worked with a $16 billion auto auction, which was the largest in the world. And I also worked locally with a financial institution that was over $1.3 billion, and I was their vice president of marketing. And even though I had all these accolades, even though I was climbing the ladder, and on paper, I had just a great life, I found that I was really empty. I found that I was not living in my purpose and I wasn't fulfilled. After my cancer experience, and trust me, I'll get way into that, but after it was over, after I was done with my treatments, I found myself still looking. I found myself still searching for the meaning of my life. I remember waking up and not being able to sleep well and talking to my husband and saying, babe, I'm just not happy. I feel like I have gotten a second chance at life and that I am wasting it. Does anyone out there feel like that? Feel like maybe you didn't get a second chance at life, but maybe you feel like you're wasting the life you have. You know that you're supposed to be more, that there is supposed to be more, that you could do more with your life. Well, I'm here to tell you, you're in the right place at the right time, because so many people feel exactly how you do. Over the next 3 lessons, we're going to talk about what I call the love triangle principle. There are 3 things to it, and you know what? We're just gonna jump right in. I'm gonna write it out for you so you can see it. And so this is my love triangle principle. In my love triangle principle, here, let's draw a triangle. This top piece is your self-love. The next one is your relational love. And this third piece is your experiential love. And really, what we're going to talk about and what we're going to get into is it takes all 3 in order to live a life of purpose and a life that you love. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about, I want us to kind of get in the same place. I want us to be in the same space. So what I want you to do is think about, what would your best life look like? I want you to think about who would be to the right and left of you. Who are the people that are your safe people that support you and love you through everything? I'd be curious to think, where would you go in a life you love, what would you be doing? Who would you be? What job would you be working at? Whose life would you be touching? I want us to really get into that space of what is truly possible when we stop second guessing ourselves, when we stop telling ourselves we can't because. So if you would just, for the next 15, 20 minutes, however long this goes, if you would sit in that space of what's possible. And what we're gonna do in this lesson number 1 is we're gonna focus right now on self-love. Because really, if you don't have self-love, it is impossible to have relational love, to have love with another person, with a spouse, with a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whatever that is. If you don't have this here, it is nearly impossible to have this. And if we go a step further, if you don't love yourself and it's difficult for you to love others or teach others how to love you because of this, then getting to the experiential love, this love that we're talking about here, that is about living a life you love. It's about creating experiences in your life so that you have the memory of what you did and not what you owned. That's what this triangle, that's what this LTP, that's what it's all about. And that is the space that I create. That's what my workshops are about. That's what, when we do retreats and, my book, that's what all of that is about. It's living in that triangle of love. Without one piece of it, it's really difficult to make the whole work. So what I want you to do, we're kind of in that space, we're here together, we're in a safe place, is I want you to take out a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper. We're gonna put it to the side for right now, but I just want you to take it out because we're gonna use it in just a second. Now, knowing that we're in that space of possibility, one of the things that we have to do when we're in this self-love portion is we have to go through the journey. We have to go through the steps of what it takes to get here. So lesson number 1 is all about the why. Why is it important for you to love yourself, for you to accept who you are, for you to forgive whoever you've been in the past? And the why leads us to what I call the 5 steps to transformational self-love. In order for us to transition from who we've always been, we've got to take a journey and we've got to reflect and look at who we've been and what the events from our past, what they've created in us, the stories we've said to ourselves because of what has happened. And so that's what we're going to dive into right now. And so I'm gonna erase the board because I need it. But I will leave the love triangle principle. So what I wanna do right now is I want us to kind of come back into that space. And I want you to now create a safe place for yourself, create a safe environment. Because I want us to look back at an event or a person or a thing that happened to you in your past that created this eruption, that created this feeling, this outburst, this traumatic event that caused you to say things about yourself, that caused you to live into those negative feelings of not being enough or of inadequacy. So I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think about your life as if it was a movie. I want you to think about that event that happened and almost as if it was a scene in a movie, so that you're not there and you're not dealing with that pain and hurt and turmoil one-on-one, that you are a step back from it and that you are an outsider watching events that took place. So I want you to get to that place where you're watching it as if it was a movie. And then I want you to look around and I want you to see who are the major players in the movie. Who are the actors that have either caused pain or caused joy, that they were just the main people, the main roles in this thing, in this script, in this event that happened to you. So I want you to kind of get in that place. But remember, you're not there. Remember, it's not happening to you now. Create a safety for yourself so that you don't go back and relive what happened. Okay, now that we're there, I want to take it and I want you to take your pen and your paper, and what we're going to do is we're going to take it from something we've witnessed and something that is very intellectual and in our minds. And I want us to move it through our bodies and out through our hands so that we can actually physically write it down on paper. So you're gonna take the paper that you took out and we'll just do it. We'll pretend like it's landscape. And we're gonna write the movie, what happened, so you can name whatever the event was. And we're gonna give 3 sections. And so in this first section, you're going to write down what happened. You're gonna write down the event. So this, number 1, is the scene. We can call it the event, tragedy, drama, whatever you want. It's that circumstance that left you forever changed. In the next section, this is section number 1, I want you to write down the players. I want you to write down the people that were in that movie. I want you to think of them as if they were actors, so it doesn't feel quite so painful. Players, cast. I want you to write down the people. And if you need to press pause, please feel free. The next step is I want you to write down the meaning. I want you to write down what you said about yourself because of what happened. So I want you to write down your script. I want you to write down the baggage you carried with you because of what happened. And finally, the rocks that weighed you down because of it. And so I want to even go a step further and kind of give you an example so that you can see how it all works. For me, the scene in my life, one of the major things, I always valued my job and what I did and my title. And so a large event, something major that happened with me, was that I was fired from my job. So I was fired. The people involved were my coworkers, my boss, my husband, my mom. This was the scene, which is number 1. These are the people, which is number 2. And the next one is the meaning I attached to it. So for me, what that meant to me was that I was not enough. It meant that, I didn't know what I was doing, that I wasn't smart. It meant that I couldn't contribute. And for me, if I can't contribute, it means that I'm unworthy. We'll do like, and that is the meaning. It was the script. It was what kept running in the back of my mind. If I couldn't contribute to the family, then, I wasn't worthy. I wasn't lovable to be in the family. The baggage that it put on my soul was that, how am I going to be proud of myself? How am I gonna live my life and move forward and contribute to our household? The rocks that it set on my soul was depression. It was bringing me down. It was putting me into a dark place. And so when you think and you write down yours, this is my movie. Write down what your movie looks like. Okay, so now that you've written it down, I want you to slide that piece of paper aside. And now I want you to pull out a new piece of paper, because the work is reflecting on who we've been, reflecting on what we've said about ourselves, and changing the conversation, changing the path, taking a new road. Because all this bad stuff, it's a perspective. It's all how we look at our lives. And so we're going to do the exact same thing, but we're just going to change the meaning. So let's take out a new piece of paper, and I'm gonna erase the board. So. Okay. And I'm gonna leave it because you're gonna be able to see it on your paper. So in this exercise, we started with getting ourselves in the movie, watching what happened to us that added depression and despair and negativity to our self-talk, to who we think we are internally. So we looked at the movie, and then we wrote down exactly the scene, what happened. We wrote down who was there, who participated, and then what meaning we attached because of it. So now I want you to take the same scene. I want you to take the same movie, and I want you to write it down. So for me, it was being fired. The people were my coworkers. There's a level of, feeling ashamed when people don't want you. And that's what being fired, that's what it means. You're not doing the job that they need, so they need to let you go. But what you internalize is that you're unworthy and that you're not wanted. And so the people, the coworkers that I was working with, and that feeling of being ashamed, my boss, and feeling like I was out of control because my boss was controlling the environment, to my husband, again, how am I going to contribute to our family, to feeling like mom, dad, some of you might not have that, but mom, dad, feeling like I have let them down and disappointed them in some way. And so now, when I change the meaning, and when I make the meaning, I'm going to change the color. Actually, when I change the meaning, how can I look at the circumstance different? That really, I wasn't able to live into my potential. I wasn't able to be the person that God intended me to be until I was released from my environment. So meaning for me is that I wasn't living in my purpose. I wasn't giving what I was doing 100% because I didn't find a purpose or a meaning in what I was doing. And so my new meaning is that now, I'm not going to keep saying meaning. And so now, how I look at that, how my perception has changed is that now my life has purpose. Now I am involved more in my family. I'm involved in my son's life. So now I have time to give back to my family. And what does that, when I'm putting meaning, when I'm seeing things about myself, I'm saying now I have capacity. And that when I'm living in my purpose, I have the time to do it, it's opened up my capacity. All of this, for me, equals happiness. And so I took something that was very negative, that was hurtful, that was affecting my pride and how I looked at myself. And I looked at really what was possible. What was now possible because I wasn't at that job anymore? What could I do now? What was my new capacity? If you spend less time looking at what you don't have and more time looking at what's possible and what you could be doing, where you could grow and learn and be, everything changes. So when we come back to the why, when we come back to lesson number one is all about looking at that eruption, looking at the event, looking at the movie that happened in your life, looking at the players, what you said about yourself, and how you could look at it, how you could apply a new meaning to it. And by doing that, it doesn't mean that the bad didn't happen. It doesn't mean that you don't have those negative feelings, but it means you're controlling your perception. You're controlling how you choose to look at it. It's just like they say the glass is half full. The glass isn't half empty. It's just the perception of your life and how you are and who you are in it. Because I can guarantee how you see yourself when you are at your lowest is not how other people see you. But because it's our perception, it's our reality. So for some of you, I know you're thinking like, that all sounds great, Kara. But for me, the thing that happened to me was bigger. Like, I lost a loved one, or I was diagnosed with a disease, that I lost a job. And because I lost my job, I have no livelihood. I'm not able to take care of my family anymore. Like my thing, my movie, my event, my eruption is so big. But what I will tell you is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That you have to be able to digest the things that are happening to your life. You have to be able to reflect and look and see who you've been, what you've told yourself because of it, and how you've lived your life to prove that you were right. If you say you can do it, you can do it. If you say you can't do it, you're right. You're right both ways. So do yourself a favor and get on the road of what is possible. So when we think about what's possible, that leads us in the perfect transition to lesson number 2. In lesson number 1, we talked all about, where am I gonna write it? Right here. We talked all about the why. Why it's important to show yourself love. Why it's important to live in a place of possibility. In lesson number 2, we're going to talk about the what. What does it take? What steps do you have to do in order to not just love yourself, but to transition into learning how to love your family, learning how to love the people around you. You're transitioning from a self-love into the relational love, being able to love completely and show someone how to love you the way you want and need to be loved. So I'm super excited about lesson number 2. But if I could ask one thing, I would really like to see what opened up for you in lesson number 1. I'd like to see what's possible for you. I'd like to see what new meaning you've given to these events from your past, from these eruptions. So please comment in the blog section. I love to interact and see what you're up to and see what this lesson and what these trainings, what they're doing for you. And I would also love for you to like the blog. So until we meet again, be good to yourself and to others.